You're listening to the Broken Havoc podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the frickin' referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications.
We are officially on the road to WrestleMania 38 in Dallas. What's up, everybody? It is Broken Havoc here on the Broken Havoc podcast, here to review Monday Night Raw from January 31st, 2022. Of course, it is the fallout of Saturday's Royal Rumble pay-per-view. I'm not going to call it a premium live event because it is a pay-per-view. Just saying that out loud. But I'm going to be talking about Raw. Overall thoughts on the show. There were aspects of the show that I enjoyed. Of course, we had 3 qualifying matches for the Elimination Chamber. I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on that. Of course, we had Ronda Rousey return, and I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on her promo that she cut on Raw. Honestly, I was never the biggest fan of Ronda Rousey when it came to her promos, especially when she was a babyface, but I'll talk about that later on in the review. Of course, we had Lita come in at the end of the show and challenge Becky Lynch for the Raw Women's title at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. So we're gonna see what happens in the next couple of weeks. But there's a lot of things that went down on this show. Now, overall, was this show a good show? I will say no. It was not a good show. But there were some things on the show that I enjoyed. Really, it was basically the last segment and the first segment, and of course the qualifying matches. Everything else on the show was just kind of there. It was just there. It wasn't. I wouldn't necessarily say it was the worst episode of Raw, because it wasn't. But was it a good show? Not really. But overall, I mean, you know, if I were to compare this show to a random episode of Raw, maybe after WrestleMania last year, bro, I tell you, this show is much better, like equally. But I'm gonna give you guys my thoughts on the show, and I'm gonna be going through the show. Overall, we're gonna be starting off with the opening segment. Of course, Adam Pearce kicks off Raw, and he always kicks off Raw, and I don't know why, man. You know, I think it's always a common occurrence. You know, we hadn't gotten it for like the past couple of weeks, but I can remember a certain period of time last year where like almost every week a wrestler would come out and welcomes everybody to Monday Night Raw. It is like a repetitive, constant thing that always happens every week on Raw. And when Adam Pearce stated that, you know, welcome everybody to Monday Night Raw, I don't know why, man. I just felt that cringe feeling in my stomach. But nothing against Adam Pearce. I think Adam Pearce is really awesome. But of course, he kicks off Raw and he says we are officially on the road to WrestleMania. And then he stated that Bobby Lashley will be defending the WWE title at the Elimination Chamber. Overall thoughts on this. You know, I predicted that, you know, there was going to be a title unification at WrestleMania between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. You know, I stated, you know, a lot of other people stated that Brock Lesnar should be entering in the Elimination Chamber, but it wouldn't be like it would be a non-title Elimination Chamber. It'd be an Elimination Chamber match that, you know, whoever wins faces the champion at WrestleMania. But this is not going to be the case. And WWE, I don't know why they always do this. I don't know why they have the champion defend the championship at the Elimination Chamber. I think that's kind of ass backwards, in my opinion. I think that kind of makes no sense, but we'll see what happens there. But Bobby Lashley will be defending the WWE Championship at the Elimination Chamber in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Bobby Lashley and then an MVP come out, and MVP says that that's not how this works. They're basically pissed off that Bobby Lashley has to defend the title at the Chamber, or in the Chamber, I should say. Says he beat Lesnar and now he has to defend the WWE title in the Elimination Chamber, and basically states that what Pearce is doing is wrong. Lashley asks Pearce who the hell does he think he is. He knew that he was better than Lesnar. Lashley then asks the crowd who the Conqueror is, who the Beast is, and who the champion is. It's Bobby Lashley. Then Brock Lesnar comes out in his wrestling attire. Yes, he comes out in his wrestling attire. He comes out in his gear. Brock tells MVP to shut the hell up or you'll stick that cane up his ass. That's actually really funny. He says that Lashley is standing here and pretending that he is the champ, where he knows that in reality he did not beat Brock Lesnar because of what happened with Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman, with Paul Heyman turning on Brock Lesnar, which was obviously imminent. Like, everybody knew that was going to happen. If you didn't know that was going to happen, I don't know what to tell you. But he asks him where the pride is, his pride is at. He says he's not mad at him. He's mad at Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman. after that debacle of a match, which, let's be honest, in reality, it was a debacle. I thought it was a debacle because I didn't think that the Lashley and Lesnar match didn't really live up to the expectations. That's just my opinion. But, yeah, after that, Brock chooses who he will fight at WrestleMania, and it's not going to be Bobby Lashley. It is going to be Roman Reigns. But he says that he told Roman Reigns specifically that he was going to have a title match. So, again, this is the second time that Brock Lesnar has stated that, he wanted a title unification match, which, again, it is not the worst idea, especially in the current state that WWE is in creatively in 2022. I think it's honestly the best decision that WWE can make. Unify both titles, but legitimately unify the titles. Don't do what you did with the women's title a couple of years ago where you unified the titles for a brief period of time and then you just split them off again. No, don't do that. Legitimately unify the titles because, in my opinion, the brand split is a dead concept. The brand split is stupid. It's really embarrassing at this point. Really, who cares? I understand it's WrestleMania season and you're kind of flipping, you're flip-flopping everybody from both brands from one brand to another, but still, it makes no sense, especially after WrestleMania, nobody's going to take the brand split seriously. So that's that. And Lesnar is dressed to fight, and he challenges Lashley to a rematch tonight. So on the show, he challenges Lashley to a rematch. MVP says he can go to the back of the line. And then Lashley calls Brock Lesnar. No, not Lashley. Brock Lesnar calls Bobby Lashley a chicken shit, which was actually funny as hell. Lashley then retreats, but then Adam Pearce says that at the Elimination Chamber, Brock Lesnar will be one of the participants in the match. So, what are my thoughts on Brock Lesnar being one of the participants in the match? To me, aside from Seth Rollins, which made absolutely no sense, and I'm going to be talking about that later on, this makes the perfect sense, and this was one of my predictions. So one of my predictions was that Brock Lesnar, of course, have everything that happened at the Royal Rumble. So Brock Lesnar being turned on, Paul Heyman turning on Brock Lesnar, and then of course he enters himself in the Royal Rumble and then winning the Royal Rumble match. And then after that, since he is a free agent, they book him in a match inside the Elimination Chamber, but it's an Elimination Chamber where the winner would face Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania. And since WrestleMania is 2 nights, it would make the perfect sense to have Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley on night 1, and then Lesnar would win that title, and then in night 2, Lesnar will then drop the title to Roman Reigns, and then, of course, Roman Reigns will be everything that he says he is. He's in God mode now, and he has both titles, and he will hold on to those titles for a long period of time until WWE finds a way to book a proper babyface to dethrone Roman Reigns. But yeah, so Lashley defending the championship at the Elimination Chamber, it kind of makes no sense because of the fact that if the Elimination Chamber is supposed to be part of the road to WrestleMania, don't you think that, since you do have two brands, wouldn't it make the most sense though if Brock Lesnar challenged Roman Reigns? Lashley does not have a challenger, so why not have a number 1 contender Elimination Chamber match where the winner would face Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania? That makes the perfect sense to me, but they did not do that here. They never do that. I don't know why. Very few times they would do that, but in most cases they don't. They would have the champion defend the title inside the chamber, which I never understood why. It made absolutely no sense then, and it makes absolutely no sense now. That's my opinion on things. But Brock Lesnar being added to the match, of course, AJ Styles did wrestle Rey Mysterio, and AJ Styles, a lot of people are saying that he is definitely the favorite to win the chamber match, which I wouldn't be against AJ Styles to win it. But at the same time, since you did have Brock Lesnar teased for the second time that he wanted Reigns title for title, it comes up to that prediction that Brock Lesnar is going to be winning the Elimination Chamber. But who knows? Who knows what can happen? Again, what I like about, this storyline in particular is the unpredictability element, and you really do not know what the hell is going to be happening at WrestleMania. WWE themselves really do not know what the hell is going to be happening at WrestleMania. These are the type of people that nowadays do not book WrestleMania in advance, like a couple of months in advance. They book WrestleMania right during WrestleMania season. That's how they would book WrestleMania. But those are my thoughts on that. We get Rhea Ripley versus Nikki ASH in a match that I'm glad that happened on Raw, and I hope we do not get 3 rematches for the next couple of weeks, for the next 3 weeks, because damn well WWE does that. We'd get Rhea Ripley versus Nikki ASH this week, and then we get the same match next week, and then we get the same match the next week. Watch WWE do that. But this feud with Rhea Ripley and Nikki ASH is honestly one of the worst feuds ever. It's really, really stupid. I'm not the biggest Nikki ASH fan. I think the gimmick sucks. Yes, I said it straight up. I don't care what anybody says. I think the gimmick sucks. It does suck, in my opinion. I just do not like that whole cartoon element when it comes to Nikki ASH. You want to know why a lot of people drive away from the product? It's because there's a lack of realism. That's why. Rhea then pushes Nikki in the beginning of the match. She throws Nikki across the ring. We get a drop kick onto the knee of Rhea Ripley, but later Rhea catches Nikki and hits a suplex. Nikki is on the outside. Rhea goes to the outside, but Nikki goes inside. She tries to go back in, but then Nikki goes back outside. When Rhea tries to go back outside to try to go after Nikki ASH, she actually gets caught in the apron, and then Nikki goes for repeated rights and lefts on Nikki, and then we go to commercial break. Once we're back from break, Nikki is in control. Rhea then escapes a tornado DDT off the top by Nikki ASH. Then Rhea hits a clothesline. Then she hits another clothesline. She hits a drop kick after that. We get a roll-up attempt by Rhea, but then we get a kick out. Then we get a super kick and a Northern Light suplex on Nikki by Rhea Ripley after that. Then Rhea goes for a close. No, not that. My bad. I went backwards. We get a super kick and then a Northern Light suplex. We get a cover and a near fall. She takes Nikki to the top. Then Nikki hits the tornado DDT. Then we get a cover and a near fall. Nikki then misses a crossbody. We get a shot to the back by Rhea. Then Rhea counters back and hits the Riptide. We get a cover. 1, 2, 3. Rhea Ripley beats Nikki ASH clean in the middle of the ring. I guarantee you we will get a rematch, and I am not going to be excited whatsoever. This match I just did not care about. Made no sense. The whole feud makes no sense, and I think the whole feud is a joke. Riddle and Chad Gable prepare for their scooter race. So throughout this entire show, throughout the middle of the show, they prepared a scooter race for Riddle and Chad Gable, in which they were scooting all around the arena. Last week, of course, they had the spelling bee, which I will say, it was a stupid idea to have a spelling bee on a wrestling show, but I'm not going to lie, I was quite entertained from last week's spelling bee. We get Alexa Bliss's journey to Raw. She talks about Lily. And, she has been with her throughout her life. And then the doctor wants to show a replica doll that you can find on WWEshop.com. And Alexa Bliss is smiling. I wouldn't be... And this is the first of two not promo segments, but little segments with Alexa Bliss's journey back to Raw. That's exactly what the segment is called. Alexa Bliss's journey back to Raw. That's exactly what the segment is called. What are my thoughts on this? They got to ditch this whole supernatural shit with Alexa Bliss. It was a joke then, it is a joke now. I do not like it at all. It is pure cringe. It's annoying, and it's stupid. Please, just stop with the stupidity here. And I guarantee you, again, you know how bad WWE TV is? We're going to be getting these segments for, the next 5 months. Watch. This is my major prediction. We're going to be getting, just Veer's coming to Raw, we're going to be getting segments like this for the next five months. It's going to take 5 months to Alexa Bliss to come back to Raw. All right. We got The Miz versus Dominic Mysterio, a really short match. Of course, this is after the match with Miz and Maurice. They basically lost to Beth Phoenix and Edge at the Royal Rumble in a match that I did not care about up until the final moments of the match, where of course they did that double spear and then the double glam slam in the end. But overall, that match I just did not care about. I just didn't. But the match starts. Both lock up. Dominic goes for a right. We get a waist lock by Dominic. Dominic then goes for a Hurricane Rana. He misses the 619 attempt, but then Miz faces Rey. Then, who is on the outside, by the way? Rey Mysterio is on the outside. Then Miz regains control and pushes Rey to the outside. Miz then fakes an injury when he was about to run the ropes. And then the ref looks at Rey Mysterio, thinking that Rey Mysterio was actually the one that, tried to, knock down Miz when he was running the ropes. But what happens, he eventually kicks out Rey. Miz then hits the skull-crushing finale, cover 1, 2, 3, and the Miz beats Dominic Mysterio clean. Okay, great. Another match that I just do not care about. Dana Brooke. Speaking of things that I do not care about, we got Dana Brooke backstage, and then right as soon as Dana Brooke was walking backstage, Tamina just comes right after Dana Brooke. I cannot take Tamina seriously, and nobody takes Tamina seriously, and that is not on her. That is not a knock on her personally. That is not a knock on her personally. I'm just saying I cannot take Tamina seriously if she was a women's tag team champion a couple months ago, and now they're booking her for the 24/7 title. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. The title is a joke and it should be abolished. But Tamina goes after Dana Brooke, and then Riddle and Gable continue their scooter race. So a little mashup of segments right there. We get the Kevin Owens show with Kevin Owens with special guest Seth Rollins. Of course, for the past couple of weeks, Kevin Owens has been quote-unquote best friends with Seth Rollins, and, They have been putting over one another verbally and all that stuff, saying, you're awesome, all that shit. But of course, Seth Rollins is talking about what happened at the Royal Rumble in his match, which was the opening match at the Royal Rumble, in which, everybody thought it was going to be the best match of the night, and arguably it kind of was. But the finish of the match was just absolutely stupid. Again, if you paid $50 for that, would you buy it? No, I wouldn't buy that shit. If I got a DQ finish like that, fuck no, I wouldn't. But Seth Rollins, of course, they showed a video package of Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins at the Royal Rumble. KO talks about how Roman Reigns got himself disqualified. He puts Rollins over and says that he is the Universal Champion at heart. And Rollins says that he did acquire a piece of real estate to Roman Reigns, but that is SmackDown business. That is Raw. And he comes to his attention that the new champion, Bobby Lashley, is defending his title at the Elimination Chamber. Rollins then has an announcement, and he declares himself, or he announces that he will be at the Elimination Chamber. Now, I have absolutely no problem with Seth Rollins being in the Elimination Chamber match. Now, the reason why Seth Rollins stated that he was going to be in the Elimination Chamber match was because of the match that he had with Roman Reigns, which makes absolutely no sense because of the fact that Roman Reigns has absolutely nothing to do with this fucking match. I mean, and yes, Brock Lesnar is in the match, but still, Roman Reigns has absolutely nothing to do with this match, so it makes no sense why Seth Rollins just declares himself in the fucking match because of the match that he wrestled on Saturday. It makes no sense whatsoever, but yeah. I have absolutely no problem with Seth Rollins being in the match. I think he's going to have a really good showing in the Elimination Chamber. My only problem was the fact that, they did not book no qualifying match. Look, they booked 3 qualifying matches for this show. 3 qualifying matches. It was Riddle versus Otis, Kevin Owens versus Austin Theory, and Rey Mysterio versus AJ Styles. Could you not literally? They could have easily booked Seth Rollins to face somebody random, like from the roster, to be in the fucking qualifying match. I think he'd put a really good match with whoever it may be. I mean, honestly, do not know in the roster who would face Seth Rollins in a qualifying match, but still, book Seth Rollins in a qualifying match instead of declaring him in the fucking Rumble because of the match, the really good match that WWE will show you on that he had at the Royal Rumble. That makes absolutely no sense. Roman Reigns has absolutely nothing to do with this particular match that is going on in Saudi Arabia. I'm sorry. It makes absolutely no sense. And this is one of the reasons why the show sucks. It's the lack of creativity. It's the lack of just knowledge and just pure stupidity. Making shit up. That is the reason why the show is bad. You're making stuff up for no apparent reason. It makes absolutely no sense. You're insulting the viewer's intelligence. That's my opinion. So we get Kevin Owens actually stated that, he should go to Seth Rollins should go to management and state that, he shouldn't qualify for his match. But then of course, Seth Rollins is like, what? I'm not going to do that. But then Austin Theory comes out, which would lead to Kevin Owens versus Austin Theory in the qualifying match for the Elimination Chamber. Overall, this was not a bad match. WWE is really high on Austin Theory, and, rightfully so. Austin Theory is really good in the ring. So yeah, overall, this was not a bad match whatsoever. I actually really enjoyed this match. It was a really small fun match. KO goes for a couple of chops in the corner. We get a side headlock by Kevin Owens. We get a shoulder tackle by KO. Then he hits a senton. Then he continues to work on Theory. We got a couple of chops by KO in the corner. Austin then begins to gain control. We get a rolling shotgun dropkick. I always dug that move, man. The rolling shotgun dropkick looks fucking amazing. By Theory. Then we get a cover into near fall. Theory goes for a right hand. He continues to work on KO. KO then fights back. We get a kick by Kevin. Then he hits a clothesline, but then Austin escapes and goes to the outside. He tries to fight out KO, but KO sends Austin to the barricade. Then he hits the cannonball on Theory onto the barricade. Then after that, both go back in the ring, but Theory gets out again. KO then goes to the outside, but Austin gains a little bit of offense by sending Owens to the steel steps. Once we're back from commercial break, KO goes for repeated rights. We get a DDT by Kevin Owens on Austin Theory. Owens then goes to the top, but Austin comes in and goes for a couple of shots to the back. Then Kevin Owens takes him down. KO then tries to go for a switching moonsault by basically, it looks like he was going to go for a senton bomb, but he switched it and hit a moonsault, but misses. That actually looked really awesome. That was actually one of my favorite spots. Neckbreaker by Theory. He picks up Kevin Owens, but KO escapes. We got a front suplex on the knee by Theory. We got a cover engineer fall. Kevin Owens then hits a neck breaker of his own. We get a cover into near fall. Then KO then tries to go for the stunner, but misses. Then we get a kick by KO. Then he goes to the top and hits a senton. We get a cover by Kevin Owens and a near fall. Kevin Owens then goes to the middle rope, but then Austin tries to fight back. Then Theory goes to the top. He tries to hit a superplex, but Owens counters and hits a suplex off the top. We get a cover by Kevin Owens and a near fall. KO then works on Theory. He takes him to the announce table. He tries to hit a powerbomb on Austin on the outside, but then Austin escapes. Then he hits a kick on Owens. Austin then hits his finisher, the ATL. We get a cover. 1, 2, 3. Austin Theory qualifies for the Elimination Chamber, and he will be part of the match. Overall thoughts on the match. This was a really good match. I enjoyed the match for what it was. It was a really good match. Really good outing by both Kevin Owens and Austin Theory. Kevin Owens looked great. Austin Theory looked great. Again, I love his rolling shotgun dropkick. I don't know why. It just looks so badass. And the ATL, of course, it's a really nice looking finisher in my opinion. But really good match. I think, a lot of people wanted Kevin Owens to win. But again, you hear these stories on WWE being really high on guys like Austin Theory. And is he going to be winning this match? Absolutely not. I do not see him winning the WWE Championship this year. Do I see him winning any mid-card championship this year? Yes, probably the U.S. title. But do I see him being in the main event? No. He's probably going to be in the main event maybe for like the next 1 or 2 years. We never know. I mean, from the way that he's being booked right now, I mean, again, you can really see by the way he is being booked that WWE has really high hopes for Austin Theory. So we'll see what happens. But is he going to be winning the Elimination Chamber? Nope. The Street Profits are celebrating for whatever reason. Riddle is scattering with the scooter race. Of course, he is winning the scooter race, I believe. Chad Gable then comes in and wants a drink, but then doesn't get it. Otis then comes in and then gives him, I don't know what kind of drink was that, but whatever. The scooter race continues. We get Angelo Dawkins versus Dolph Ziggler. Overall, again, not a bad match. It was a short match, but a match that I just did not care about. We get a running kick by Ziggler. We get a cover and a near fall. He sends Dawkins shoulder first onto the ring post. Ziggler's in control. We get a cover and a near fall. We get a side headlock by Ziggler. Dawkins then fights back, but Ziggler grounds him down. We get a splash in the corner by Ziggler, and then we get a second splash in the corner by Ziggler. But in the third attempt, Dolph runs into the right hand. Then we get a clothesline by Dawkins. We get a spinning back elbow by Dawkins. Then we get a splash in the corner by Dawkins. We get a running bulldog by Angelo Dawkins. We get a cover and a near fall. We get a roll up by Ziggler. We get a near fall. Then Ziggler counters Dawkins when he picked Dolph up into a DDT. We get a cover and a near fall again. Then Dawkins counters the super kick, but then Dawkins plants Ziggler face first to the mat. We get a cover, and Angelo Dawkins wins this one-on-one match with Dolph Ziggler. Again, a match that I just did not care about. I wouldn't be surprised if we would get Bobby Roode, or Robert Roode, I should say, versus Angelo Dawkins next week. You know it's bound to happen. WWE loves this type of booking, And again, I hate that name of the Dirty Dogs. It's such a garbage name, the Dirty Dogs. It's the worst name ever. Riddle almost wins the scooter race, but then Gable busts his ass. But then Otis, while Riddle's this close to hitting the finish line, what happens? Otis comes in and costs Riddle the scooter race. And then Riddle then is just pissed off and he challenges Gable to a match. And then, of course, he says that, you're not going to be facing me. You're going to be facing Otis. So we got Riddle versus Otis in an Elimination Chamber qualifying match. So this is a qualifying match. I didn't take a lot of notes on the match because I was getting a coffee during this period of time, but it was not a bad match, especially from near the end. Throughout the entirety of the majority of the beginning of the match, Otis was gaining a lot of offense in the match. Otis goes for like a huge shoulder tackle, and then he goes for a body slam. Riddle goes for the floating bro, but he hits it successfully, but lands onto the knees of Otis. Now, granted, Otis did not get the knees up, but he still landed on the knees of Otis. Riddle then goes to the top and hits the floating bro again. We get a cover, and Riddle wins the match. So Riddle qualifies for the Elimination Chamber. Overall, I'm glad that Riddle is going to be in the Chamber match. Again, is he going to win? No, he's not going to win. There's actually a report that's saying that Riddle was actually slated to win the Royal Rumble match, in which, you know what, I actually wouldn't be against. Riddle is actually really entertaining on television, and, he's really good in the main event scene, in my opinion. I think he'd be really entertaining and really good in the main event scene, but it really all depends on how WWE treats him, because, I've stated in my earlier Raw reviews that, they're really treating Riddle like kind of like a joke, kind of like as if like they're, making fun of him. But, over time, I will admit, I think Riddle is just really entertaining on the microphone. He is flat out entertaining. I love it. But, is Riddle going to win? Absolutely not. I don't see him winning. Bianca Biller versus Carmella, another match that I just did not care about. Carmella wants her mask. The match starts. Both lock up. We get a waistlock takedown by Bianca. We get an elbow by Carmella. Pushes Bianca, but then Bianca tries to hit her with the hair whip, but doesn't, with the ponytail, I should say. We get a slap by Carmella, but then Carmella chases Carmella all around the ring. We get repeated stomps on Bianca by Carmella, but Bianca comes back, works on Carmella into the corner. We get a kick by Bianca, but then Carmella takes Bianca to the corner. Carmella's in control. We get a couple of back elbows by Carmella in the corner. We get repeated shots to the back. We get a cover and a 1 count. Carmella then applies the chin lock, but then Bianca counters, picking up Carmella, but then Carmella escapes and takes her down. Applies a chin lock again on Bianca Belair. Then Bianca escapes into a backbreaker on Carmella. We get a suplex by Bianca. We get a right hand. Bianca picks up Carmella, hits the kiss of death, the KOD. We get a cover, and Bianca Belair goes over and wins the match. Again, it was pretty obvious that Bianca Belair was going to be winning the match, but let's be honest. Did you guys really care about this match? I know I didn't. I did not care about the match. And look, Carmella is one half of the women's tag team champions. What have they been doing with those tag titles? As far as I'm concerned, they didn't do anything with those titles. So, again, why am I supposed to pique my interest if they're not doing anything with the women's tag titles? You know what I'm saying? That's again, you got to put emphasis in those titles, and they don't do that. We get a second segment of Alexa Bliss's journey back to Raw. Again, this segment, I guarantee you, this segment is going to last for like 5 months, just like Veer's coming to Raw. The doctor gives Alexa Lily, which was a replica on WWEshop.com, as the referee would state, and Alexa Bliss is just smiling. And that was the basically quote-unquote segment. We get a backstage interview with Alpha Academy. Chad Gable puts himself over by winning the race and challenges RK Bro to a quiz bowl next week on Raw. Great. Nothing will top the spelling bee. Nothing will top the spelling bee, okay? Here's one match that I really enjoyed. AJ Styles versus Rey Mysterio. Now, instead of Rey Mysterio, it could have very well... Actually, no, never mind. I take that back. I was actually originally going to say that it would have been a much better match if we had AJ Styles versus Seth Rollins. But again, I do want Seth Rollins in the match, and he is in the match. I just did not like the way that they just booked him in the match, saying, oh, because of my match with Roman Reigns, manager was like, oh, put him in the match. That made absolutely no sense, in my opinion, because Roman Reigns has absolutely nothing to do with this Elimination Chamber match. But yes, I know he cost the title he cost the title to Brock Lesnar. Of course, that title eventually going to Bobby Lashley, but still, this is Bobby Lashley's match, so that's that. But, again, Rollins should have been in a qualifiers match instead of just instantly going there. It sucks that Kevin Owens had to qualify, but then Rollins had to qualify. Can it probably have to do something with the story? Maybe, but still, it makes absolutely no sense. But we get AJ Styles versus Rey Mysterio in an Elimination Chamber qualifying match. Overall, this was not a bad match. Actually, probably my favorite match of the entire night. It's really hard to debate. Probably this match was the best match of the night. Rey goes for a sliding suicide dive onto the outside and then hits a Hurricane Rana on AJ onto the barricade on the outside, which actually looked really cool. Once we're back from commercial break, we get a side headlock by AJ on Rey. Rey then fights back. We get a kick by Rey. He hits a springboard moonsault by Rey, but then Styles catches him, but Rey counters back and hits a Hurricane Rana. We get a Hurricane Rana by Rey. We get a springboard crossbody by Rey. We get a cover and a near fall. We get a kick by Rey on Styles. Rey then misses a shotgun dropkick. Styles then picks up Rey and hits the backbreaker. We get a cover and a near fall. Then Rey sends Styles to the middle rope. He misses the 619. AJ then tries to go for the phenomenal forearm, but misses. He tries to go for the cap crusher submission, but then Styles, but Rey hits a kick. Rey's in control. He takes Styles to the top. Rey goes to the top, but then tries to go for the Hurricane Rana. Styles then wants to go for the Styles Clash off the top, but then Rey escapes. Then he sends AJ to the middle rope. He hits the 619. He goes to the top, but then misses the cross body. Then Rey goes for a crucifix pin attempt, but then we get a near fall. Styles then hits a Pele kick. AJ then tries to go for a powerbomb, but Rey reverses. Rey then goes to the top. He hits a senton, but then Styles catches him and then hits the Styles Clash, which I'll admit was a really good counter and a really nice transition. He hits the Styles Clash. We get a cover 1, 2, 3, and AJ Styles qualifies for the Elimination Chamber. Now, a lot of people are saying that AJ Styles should win the match, and my top 2 picks to win this Elimination Chamber match, of course, the obvious is definitely Brock Lesnar, and my second, favorite to win the match is definitely AJ Styles. We all want that AJ Styles versus Edge match. I think it's pretty safe to say that we all want that match. Hopefully, I definitely do see it happening, but we'll see what happens. If AJ wins the title, I do not have any problem with it, and if they go straight for the one-on-one match with Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns, we all know Roman Reigns is going over, but again, there are many different possible scenarios that WWE can do when it comes to Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. We really do not know, and that's, one thing I will say is that, when it comes to WrestleMania season this year, I somewhat like the unpredictability aspect to it. I mean, a part of it is kind of predictable because we all know Roman Reigns is not losing the Universal Championship against Brock Lesnar. We all know this guy is going to be retaining the title. But again, I think on our way building up to WrestleMania, I love, the assumptions and possibilities that, they are building up to WrestleMania. So what I mean by that is, all what matches are going to be happening, what's going to happen when it comes to the WWE title. Are we going to be having AJ versus Edge for the belt, or are we going to have a rematch between Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley, or are we going to be having Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns title for title? A lot of different possibilities there, but we'll see what goes down. But I'm definitely really curious to see what happens, and I'm really interested. Ronda Rousey in the final segment of the show. So she's back. So she cuts a promo, and when, of course, in her first run in the WWE, I was actually really critical on Ronda Rousey when it came to her promo skills. When she was a babyface, I was really, kind of cringed. I was really cringing a lot whenever Ronda Rousey spoke on the microphone because, in my opinion, I didn't really like the way Ronda spoke on the microphone, especially when she was a babyface. Once they turned her heel, back in 2019, of course, on for the build up for WrestleMania 35, I really enjoyed the way Ronda Rousey was speaking, because it really, in my opinion, whenever Ronda Rousey spoke, especially when she was a heel for those last few months, it really felt, a little bit genuine to me. And I feel like as a babyface, I just really do not kind of grasp it. Now, with this promo that she cut, I really did not know what to say of it. A lot of people did not like the promo that she cut, and I totally understand that. But you know what? We're gonna see what happens in the future. But she talks about how she's been debating ever since Saturday whose title she wants to take at WrestleMania, Charlotte or Rebecca. Of course, that is Becky Lynch's real name, so she calls her by Rebecca. And when she calls her Rebecca, you can definitely assume that I definitely will assume that I think the match that will definitely happen is Ronda Rousey versus Becky Lynch. She says that she doesn't deserve the title shot or the rematch. She says that she can choose Charlotte. Then everybody knows that, the baddest bitch is her. Becky Lynch then comes out, and then, Becky Lynch runs down Ronda Rousey, says that she missed her, and it's nice to see that she hasn't changed. She says that she lost credibility and says that she's the only person to beat her. They both know that the biggest match is Ronda Rousey versus Becky Lynch, and she can go straight to Charlotte. But if she would like to choose her opponent, she wants to know her answer now on who she will face at WrestleMania. Then what happens? Ronda grabs the arm of Becky and then arm drags her. And what happens after that? She says that she will have her answer on Friday on SmackDown. Then Becky tells her to run when then Ronda leaves. And then Lita comes out. And then she says that she never backs down from a challenge. And Lita challenges Becky Lynch at the Elimination Chamber. Now, I will say this. When Lita first came out, I was really afraid on if they were going to be booking Becky versus Lita at WrestleMania. I was so scared. I was like, bro, please do not tell me that they're going to be doing Lita versus Becky at WrestleMania, because we all know we want Becky versus Ronda. But I mean, there's like a high chance that we're probably still not going to be getting that match this year and probably next year, because the rumors were that, Ronda has a 1-year deal with the WWE. So Ronda can face Charlotte this year, and then Ronda can face Becky next year. But again, I was afraid that, they were going to do Becky versus Lita, because again, the right match is Ronda versus Becky. That was the match we always wanted. And WWE basically, in my opinion, spit straight at our faces by adding Charlotte in last minute, like a week or two before WrestleMania. They added in Charlotte last minute and made it a triple threat match. And I'm like, bruh, why do you have to add Charlotte in every first ever type match? Like, does it always have to be Charlotte Flair? It really doesn't, man. That's my view on things. I was not the biggest Charlotte Flair fan. I was never the biggest Charlotte Flair fan. I always respected her work, but I was never the biggest Charlotte Flair fan. I'm sorry. I was just never the biggest Charlotte Flair fan. But she challenges Becky to a match at Elimination Chamber. Becky says no, and then later accepts the match, and the show ends. So, what are my thoughts on us getting Lita versus Becky Lynch at WrestleMania? Again, I see Lita, be wrestling again at WrestleMania, and it's great to see that, she is wrestling Becky Lynch at Elimination Chamber. Now, my theory is that, she will probably lose to Becky Lynch, most likely lose to Becky Lynch at Elimination Chamber, and then we'll go straight to Charlotte and then challenge Charlotte at WrestleMania, because on these past couple of weeks on SmackDown, they did tease Lita versus Charlotte Flair. So, I mean, do I think that, Lita will face Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania? That is one of my predictions for the WrestleMania card. But we'll see what happens. But I'm at least happy that we're not getting Becky versus Lita at WrestleMania. Instead, we're getting it at Elimination Chamber. So, WrestleMania, in my opinion, I think it's actually looking a little bit interesting. But we'll see what happens for these next couple of months headed into WrestleMania 38. I was about to say 35. WrestleMania 38 in Dallas at AT&T Stadium. Overall thoughts on this episode of Raw. Raw was an okay show. I wouldn't necessarily say it was a good or a bad show. There were definitely aspects on the show that I just did not care about. There were aspects of the show that I really loved about, and there were aspects of the show that, I had questions on. But questions that honestly bring my interest to see what happens at WrestleMania, because I will say this, I love, us speculating what is possibly happening at WrestleMania, because this is something that we do not know. But I feel like at the same time, this is something that WWE still does not know either, because we all know for the past couple of years, WWE really were kind of lazy during WrestleMania season, and WWE always booked WrestleMania last minute. They don't do what they used to do, in which, they would always book WrestleMania in advance, but we'll see what happens, man. But yeah, that was my Raw review from January 1st, 2022. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications, and be on the lookout for more content right here on the Broken Havoc podcast. But this is Broken Havoc. I'm signing out.